240 had come a long way. He had progressed quite well with the help of therapy. Despite the fact he would never walk, he went every day for the past 7 months determined to beat the odds. The FBI's witness protection program had moved him to North Dakota in the mountains to keep him safe. Now it was time to bring him home, time to testify against Jarrell Jackson. The U.S. Attorney, Paul Perichetti, had an open and shut case that would defy Clarence Darrow. It was ridiculous that Jarrell Jackson, the known leader of the Junior Mafia, didn't plead guilty. No one knew why he even wanted to go to trial. It was totally ludicrous. Didn't matter. Jackson was going to get the death penalty. Perichetti knew he had him by the balls, and it felt great. Jarrell deserved to die, not just for all he did out in the street, killing and serving the city cocaine, but he deserved to die for being so damn slick and never getting caught. The Junior Mafia was a fucking nuisance, all of them, and getting their leader, Jarrell Jackson, had made headlines in newspapers throughout the country for the past 6 months. Now, it was time for trial. Now it would all come to an end. Once Christopher Cole testified, it would be over. Perichetti was eating up all the publicity and taking all the credit for making the streets safer by prosecuting the criminals, especially the notorious Jarrell Jackson. For him, it was a dream come true. He was finally getting what he wanted, publicity. It was time to think about running for mayor. The courtroom was packed. The majority of the people black. They had come to sit this one in. A lot of families had lost a life to the hands of the Junior Mafia, where they were watching, hoping, and praying for justice. Justice that hadn't been served. The prosecutor was their God. Only he could give them what they wanted. Only he could bring justice for this cruel and wanton behavior that had swept through the streets like Satan himself. Paul Perichetti came through the double court doors, his trench coat swinging as he made his entrance. He was on an all-time high. Things were looking good. He felt the power of City Hall calling him. "All rise," said the bailiff as the Honorable Eugene Pearlstein entered the courtroom. "You may be seated," he said, stiffly after sitting down. Voir dire had taken 3 weeks. Perichetti had used his peremptory challenges early on, giving Jarrell's attorney, Billy DiStefano, a slight edge in the jury selection. As far as DiStefano was concerned, he wanted his client to beat the case. Hell, he knew he was defending the so-called leader of the Junior Mafia, but he didn't care. The bottom line was that the niggas and their bullshit had made him a millionaire at the age of 36. Why stop now? He could not stand nor afford for Jarrell to be sentenced. There was no way he was going to let his client receive capital punishment, which was exactly what the state was going for. Voir dire, one of the biggest problems with the justice system is the method of jury selection in American jurisprudence. It was totally unfair, but DiStefano felt good about the 12 jurors that were selected. The judge explained to the jurors exactly what their job was, which was to find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Court was adjourned until the following morning. DiStefano went back to his office. He rehearsed his opening statement over and over again, preparing himself for the jurors, ready to look them dead in their eyes and tell them why they wouldn't be finding his client guilty. When he was finished, not only would a juror be dazzled, but also the verdict would not be guilty. He had $175,000 so far, and another $50,000 due to him for professional service he rendered. The world had gone mad, and he was making money. His dead president's fantasy was interrupted by his secretary. "Billy, your wife's on the line," she said over the intercom. "Thank you," he said, picking up the line. Finishing with his wife on the phone, faster than his record-breaking connubial speed, he hung up and told his secretary to hold all his calls so that he could go over his opening statement one last time. It was short, simple, and to the point. It was stated as succinctly as possible, just to whet the jurors' appetites, anticipating what was to come. He had a promising future right there in the palm of his hands. The publicity alone was phenomenal, not to mention all the incoming calls for potential clients he had not had a chance to review. Thanks to the Junior Mafia, he was famous, and he would get Jarrell Jackson off. He had no doubts about it. "All rise." Judge Pearlstein seemed to take his sweet time sitting his fat ass in his chair. Jarrell couldn't figure him out. Parachetti made his opening statement. Then DiStefano gave his opening performance. After opening statements were concluded, the prosecutor presented his evidence, then called his first witness, a hotel clerk who claimed he remembered two guys coming into the hotel and walking past him. When asked if either of them were sitting in the courtroom, he pointed at Jarrell. "Ain't that some shit? Rand and Sam went in the hotel," he whispered to Billy. At least he's honest, thought Billy, as he glanced over and looked at his client. The prosecutor seemed to introduce something into evidence about every 10 minutes. From pictures to diagrams, he introduced it all, except the weapon. DiStefano objected to everything, and Pearlstein was getting tired of telling his ass overruled. A great deal of investigation and preparation had been done by the DA, and it was a shame. All that work he had done was a waste of time, because DiStefano was going to get his client off. For $225,000, he knew he had better. DiStefano did a good job on cross-examination. "Well, at the time of the night, is it possible you were tired and you didn't know who you saw walk into the lobby of the hotel from 50 yards away? How could anyone know if it was my client walking in our hotel room?" He asked each question with sincerity, constantly watching the jurors. "Objection," said the prosecutor, really wanting to say "fuck you," as did DiStefano, but the judge overruled him anyway. "Ha," DiStefano wanted to say, thinking about the $500 he spent feeding Judge Pearlstein dinner last night. Ha was more like it. DiStefano just took over the courtroom, making liars out of all of Parachetti's witnesses until Parachetti called in his last witness. Prosecution calls for Christopher Cole. Christopher Cole, a paraplegic. Christopher Cole, aka 40. By the time 40 got off the stand, the jurors were in tears. A mean stare was what they gave DiStefano and his client. Jarrell just wanted someone to shoot 40's ass. "Can't you do nothing to shut him up?" Jarrell asked. "What do you want me to do?" Billy answered. "I don't know, object or something," said Jarrell. "For $250,000, do something, damn." Jarrell was really getting nervous. 40 spoke directly to the jurors, telling them everything, from the girl to the kidnapping to the basement where he was kept until they received $1 million. He told them how he pulled off Sam's mask and how Randolph and Gerald Jackson took off their masks willingly. He told them that Jarrell Jackson was the one who pulled the trigger on him, first in his legs, then in his chest. He told him that he put the gun to his head and shot him. DiStefano cross-examined him, not able to break his story or intimidate him, giving him the wrong answer, no matter how many ways he asked his questions. That had always been DiStefano's forte, causing people to twist themselves up and make themselves sound like they weren't sure of what they were saying. But it didn't work. 40 knew what he was doing, and he knew why he was there. He wanted justice. He deserved justice, and justice would be his. In Gina's world, the months passed quickly, and with them, so did her savings. It had been 6 months since Quadir died, and Gina didn't know if she was coming or going. Her brooding was in direct proportion to her financial situation. The beauty and change that comes with spring didn't come for Gina. Instead, she talked to herself and stayed in her room, which she shared with Kalir, Gwendolyn's other baby. Brandy stayed in Gagit's room. Gwendolyn was still in jail because Gagit wouldn't let Gina put up the bail money. No need in wasting. God says it's a sin to waste, and Gwendolyn ain't right. So you just hold on to your money in case you need it. Gina had nothing going on for herself. There were no adventures, no nights on the town, no dinners in AC, gambling, spending frivolously, and no romance. She missed the romance of Quadir, the way he would grab her and hold her in a rough passion, tasting her, serving her his penis, which was one of a god, thick and fat with a perfect length. Just the thought of him sent chills down her spine. Only Quad could take Gina far beyond any fantasy ever could. Quadir. She felt him all the time. She talked to him every night. She cried for him in her sleep, twisting and turning, talking in the bunk bed above Kalir. Sometimes Kalir would sleep in the bedroom with Gagit and his baby sister. There wasn't good sleep for Kalir with the new baby either. Normally, Kalir would be found sleeping on the kitchen floor in closets and in a bathtub. Get couldn't figure it out. Finally, one night she caught him sleepwalking and called 911. Gina couldn't believe it. Not the fact that 911 woke up the neighborhood at 4 in the morning, but the fact that Get blamed Khalid's sleepwalking on her because she was always talking to a dead man. You talked the boy right out the room, Gina, Get said. Things just seemed to be going downhill. Even Gucci, the precious Persian kitty, had his share of life in the hood. One day, while Gina was out, Gary and his friends were in the house rolling poor Gucci up against the wall like a pair of dice. Gina was so upset when she came in the house to see Gucci being tossed like a football. She didn't speak to Gary for 2 weeks. The poor cat was never the same. He had started climbing up the walls and jumping on people as they walked by. Usually, he would climb on top of the refrigerator and wait for someone to walk in the kitchen and jump on their heads. They had worked on Gucci every time Gina left the house. He become a mean cat, and now he was evil. Gina couldn't stand him. He had changed so much. He wasn't cute and cuddly anymore. Now Gucci was a mean old tomcat with long straggly hair. Gucci blamed Gina for the bad meals and torture he was put through, and usually would attack her on sight. Get just wanted the cat out of her house. Then there were the twins, Bria and Brianna, who weren't living in the same world with the rest of the people on the planet. They had boyfriends now. Life was Kevy Kev, and don't tell Bria it wasn't, 'cause it would be something if you did. Brianna was blinded by the gold teeth, obviously, of some kid named Dalvin. He's all that. He's all that. We use condoms. It's my life. Yes, they were into sex, heavily into sex, and definitely down for experimentation. What was Gina gonna tell them? It's 1990. You can catch AIDS. Like that would lead them in the right direction. They don't believe. They just don't believe, Gina thought. So she kept her mouth shut and always did. Did the condom break? 'Cause if it did, you have 6 months to see if you'll die. No, Gina, it's not like that. Brianna just stared at her as if Gina was retarded. Dalvin was a virgin until he met me. He told you that? Gina shook her head in disbelief, knowing game when she heard it. Of course he was a virgin. Are you crazy? Brianna asked. This girl was out there. Gina's mental level could not deal with the minds of just turned 17-year-olds. They just knew they were grown. There was no reasoning with them and what they wanted to do. Get kept fussing, and Gina would get real tired of the whole routine inside the house. But outside it was worse. The brothers seemed so angry. People were frighteningly frustrated. The inner city streets were hard and represented hard times. Gina hated it, the way it looked all scribbled on and wasted. Gina had become a hermit like Get. She hated going outside at night. It was always something. The brothers wasn't taking no shorts in the streets either. They would rob you in a minute and victimize you for the smallest amount of materials or cash you may have. It was chaos and mass confusion. She missed Quadir so much. It had been 6 months going on 7 since his murder, and nothing had changed. She still loved him, and she still wanted him. She couldn't forget him. She talked to him every day and every night. Nightmares of Quad's death took the place of the happily ever after dreams, and Gina often woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, filled with a fear whose name she knew but wouldn't say. Despair. When she lost Quadir, she lost it all, including her spirit. The summer months were getting hotter, and it only added to her ennui. Maybe an air conditioner would help, she thought. She called Reek. It wasn't a problem. 2 air conditioners? Gina, that's not a problem. And $5,000? That's not a problem either, G. No problem, Gina thought. That's what friends are for. Thank you, Reek. I'm on my way, she said, hanging up the phone. She ran into Get's room. You got some money? No, baby. Not yet. I will when the mailman gets here, though. Today's the 1st of July, said Get, playing with her false teeth. Gina wasn't trying to hear it. She went outside and walked to the corner store. If she was lucky, she'd see someone who would loan her the money. She hated having to ask, but $5 shouldn't be a problem since they were out there selling caps on every corner. She was wearing a pair of jean shorts with a Chanel t-shirt tucked inside and a fresh pair of Reeboks. As she walked on the sidewalk, The kids were playing in the street. People were sitting outside anywhere they could find shade and a cool breeze. The summer heat was unbearable. Gina's Mercedes-Benz sat in the sun sparkling as if it was on a showroom floor. Gina crossed the street and walked up to the store like she was going in. "How y'all doing?" she asked. "Yo, Gina, what's going on, baby?" asked Rob. "Nothing, just chilling," she said. "Yo, Gina, you think you could drop me off at my mom's on 29th and Lehigh?" he asked. "Yeah, I could do that, but you're going to have to get some gas," she said. "That's not a problem. When you going to take me?" he said. "I'll take you now." "Bet. Come on, let's go." "No, Rob, you got to go get the gas and bring it back here before we can go." "Girl, is you crazy? The nearest gas station is on Broad Street," said Rob, looking at his boy Shambi. "I'll go get the gas," she said. "Yeah, you gonna have to, 'cause it's hotter than the motherfucker out here. Shit, I might fall out." "How you rolling in a Mercedes-Benz with no gas, Gina?" Shambi asked. "Look, times are hard, okay?" "Here, Gina," Rob said as he handed her a $5 bill. "I'll be right back." "Mm-hmm," he said, nodding as she walked off pocketing his $5. Shit, times must be hard. It wouldn't be no way she walk into the gas station, he said, shaking his head, unable to believe it. Gina walked 6 blocks to the nearest gas station and got a gallon of gas, which she carried in a milk container. She was tired from the walk. The hot sun blazed as she walked down the city street. She turned the corner as a black Mercedes-Benz turned the corner and pulled up alongside her. It slowed down, and Gina knew it was about to stop for her. "Yo, Gina, you okay? You need a ride or anything?" asked the guy behind the wheel. With the sun blaring in her eyes, she didn't know who it was until she bent down and saw Jamal smiling at her. "Hi, Jamal," she said with a smile back at him. It was good seeing him, especially since she was in true blue need of a ride. It had been a long time. So much has happened. She had changed, and one would hope that he had too. Of course he questioned the gasoline in the milk container before dropping her in front of the car. "I'll see you around," he said. "Thanks, Jamal. I appreciate it." She situated the gas problem, dropped Rob off, and went straight to Reek's house. He had just moved into a nice house off the main line. Reek was all that. He was still hustling, of course, but he was so kind to Gina, and she was truly grateful. "Where's my kiss?" he said to her as she walked through the door. Gina and Reek sat down for a while, talking about how time had changed for both of them. Gina, not really wanting to let him know how right he was about moving back home, sort of came out of nowhere and told him she was ready to move. Reek just looked at her. He didn't want to say "I told you so," so he didn't question her at all. Just said they could contact a few realtors and start looking around for a new place tomorrow. Gina was excited and content with hearing that. For the first time in a long time, she thought of all of her furnishings and storage. "Can I come up here with you, Reek?" she asked, knowing his house had to be a couple $100,000 at least. "Yeah, there's some houses around here for sale," he said, thinking of the advantages of having Gina close by. After she left Reek, she went to an appliance shop and bought 2 air conditioners, a big one for downstairs and a small one for her bedroom. Gina felt good. Reek gave up loot, like Quadir always did. There was something about walking around with a couple thousand in your pocket. Gina had forgot the feeling. She dropped the air conditioners off at God Gets and went to Le Cheveux. Everyone was real happy to see her. Bev wasn't there. She and Charlie had just had a baby girl, so some girl named Lisa did her hair. When she was through, she stopped by her post office box to check for her mail, something she rarely did. She had gotten a post office box when Quadir's mother Viola put her out with the mine, it's all mine routine. Gina hadn't checked on the box much. There was never any mail to her, just a lot of junk mail for her and Quadir. Unlocking the box, she found 13 envelopes.